Hi girls and boys, welcome to Elementor Tips and Tricks video clips. In today's video, I'll talk about creative borders in Elementor. Have you ever been using borders as a part of your design to maybe add more weight to the certain piece of information or put some action or accent to it, frame it up? No, rarely. Why? By definition, borders are used to define space on page. If there's a page cluttered with all kinds of information, borders do make sense. But if you prefer white space in design, you wouldn't even think of framing pieces of content, correct? However, border doesn't need to be just a line. Border can be considered as a contrasting color. So in that sense, borders are able to complement content. Otherwise, borders can easily become a precious design element. Have you ever been thinking of borders in that sense? In previous video, I explained how to do image in text or gradient in text in Elementor, and I said that each next video will be a step forward to our final goal. And the final goal is to make two card boxes on top, matched by design to these two at the very bottom. Now that we are having our image in text, let's do the step 2. My goal today is to show you how to add these crazy looking borders in Elementor, just like the ones on the screen. I'll show you two ways of doing these fancy borders, and both of which include usage of custom CSS Elementor panel. That very panel is a part of Elementor Pro, and I guess you gotta have one if you like to be able to achieve something like that. Something like I'm about to do right now. Elementor Pro version costs 49 bucks, but it's worth the money. Not because of that custom CSS panel, but because of plenty of other things you get with Pro version. Until now, there's no way to use image border as a border in Elementor. Borders can be flat color only. You can add transparency if you like to. You can round them up, set weight, style, and that's pretty much it. So by default, you can do something like this. So let me add a border to my first card box. Border type solid. Border width 15 pixels. Border color some bluish color, and the border radius 10 pixels, and that's pretty much it. Okay, it looks kinda I don't know, maybe shitty or something like that. What we need is an image border instead, so we ain't gonna use Elementor's border panel to define our border at all. It's simply because it doesn't allow us to set the image border. So all the work we are going to do is to be by using custom CSS code that has to be written into our custom CSS panel. Let me get back things as they were before. I'm gonna remove that border. Style, border, no border radius, clear, and set to 0, set to none. Okay, I guess that's it. Now let's open Advanced tab, Custom CSS panel, and write our own styles. Just a few, easy to understand even for a rookie. Okay, I'll highlight my section first. No, I'll highlight my column first, and I'm gonna type in selector. By using selector, we'll be able to refer the column, not the section. This is section. If I click on this is going to be our column. Okay, so by using selector, while the column highlighted, I'm referring to the column itself. Selector is kind of a shortcut that tells Elementor we want to refer that very element. let's define our border. Open close curly bracket. Border style is going to be solid. Why? I'm gonna tell you a little bit later. Border width is going to be 15 pixels. Border color is going to be transparent, or at least a little bit transparent, and I'm going to tell you why a little bit later as well. So I'm going to say RGBA is going to be 0.01. And now the stars of our today's video. Border image. I'll type in URL, open close brackets, I'll put some quotes, double quotes, and lastly, border image slice. Border image slice is going to be 15 just to match our border width. And now all about those whys. First of all, border style, it has to be defined because we are dealing with borders. If no border style, no border at all. However, it has to be mentioned that it cannot be dashed or dotted or double style border. It can only be solid. That's the only possible border style when using border image. Border color must have at least some transparency, as I said. You can see that I've used 1% transparency, 0.01. It's because Safari browser is suffering from a bug, and if I just write border style transparent, border image will not show up in Safari. Border image. In order to find out the path to my border image file, I'll open Media Library, but first I'll go to Style tab, then background panel is already open. I'll just click to select image, even though I'm not going to select any image. What I need to do here is to highlight my image and find out the path to that image. Okay, so highlight URL, right mouse click copy, close it, go back to custom CSS panel and paste here. And here it is, our broken like border gradient border is here. Let's check out whether everything looks fine in Chrome and Safari. Update. Firefox should be fine. Google Chrome, refresh. Okay, Safari, refresh. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Now, why did I use SVG file type? I actually didn't have to. The only reason is the fact that SVG is a vector file and it can be resized indefinitely without losing the quality, of course. So no jagged edges or whatsoever when resized extremely. Besides, it can be transparent and the file size is ridiculously small. You can also use PNG as a decent replacement, of course, because it also supports transparency. Of course, we can also use JPEG for border image, and that's exactly what I'm going to do to our second card box. Okay, first of all, I'm going to select all the CSS code I've wrote here, and then I'm going to highlight my second column, open custom CSS panel, and simply paste all the code. Okay, but I'm not going to use SVG background. As I said, I'm going to use JPEG. So let's do this once again. Open Style tab, background, open the media library just temporary, highlight my target file, highlight path to that file, copy, close, go back to custom CSS, and in place of my SVG file I'm going to paste the path to my JPEG file, and there it is. Okay, ain't that cool? Look at these stripping borders, they look fantastic. But any caveat to image border? Well, just a minor one. You cannot set rounded corners. It's just the way it is. No rounded corners with image border. That's why I'll show you another method of setting up image border, and that method doesn't actually include any additional CSS unless dealing with SVG file. As you can see, there's a slight difference in corner roundness. These are not rounded while these are rounded. Okay, so in order to fix the lack of the ability to set the rounded corners, I'm going to show you the second method of setting up image border. Just to make things clear enough, this method actually creates the background which mimics the border. So it's not a border, it's an underlying background image, what you can see here. This is only possible if we have parent and child element structure in HTML. Such structure as section, and the column in Elementor. So it's all good. Border size is going to be controlled by the margin of the child element. Hope it makes sense what I just said, but in case not, it will very soon, trust me. First of all, I'll have to erase everything we've done so far, get things back as they were before initially. So that's the only way I can show you how this second method works. So I'll go here, advanced, custom, sorry, section column. I'll delete this and this, and that's gonna be fine. Let's begin with the second box now, because we'll continue to use JPEG as a quasi-image border. Our first card box does involve SVG file as a border, and there are certain hacks required to make things work properly. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So be sure to make the section active. The section, this is the section. The section holds the column inside, so just click that bunch of dots to make section highlighted, that's all. Go to Style, expand Background panel if not already expanded, and select Image for Media Library. I'm going to select that image, Insert Media, and there's nothing you can see yet because section column, this is our section column. Section column background is hiding it. Now I have highlighted my section column. I made it active by clicking that little black square in the upper left corner. Now I'll click Advanced tab, expand Advanced Panel to, if not already expanded, and I'll just add 15 pixels margin to all four sides. Now the background gets visible. Alrighty. What I'll do now is to set up SVG background for our first card box. This time things gotta take a different procedure. Remember, this is only required if you plan to set SVG file as a background. We are going to make a custom CSS piece of custom CSS code to define background of this section. Why? Because it can it cannot be done by using standard background panel options. First, let's give 15 pixels margin to section column, to this one, highlight it, because that's just how we can see what's going on with the background, with that SVG background. Things will become much more obvious if we do so. So I'll click Advanced tab, Advanced Panel, and I'll add 15 pixels margin. So far so good. Be sure to make section active again. Just click on that bunch of dots to make section highlighted. Go to Advanced tab. Now expand Custom CSS panel and write the following code. I'll start with selector because I'm referring to my section, and I'll type in background image URL, open close brackets, and two double quotes, background image. I'm gonna show you how to set the path to a file a little bit later, even though you already know how to. Okay, now background repeat is going to be no repeat. I don't want to have a background repeatable. Background position is going to be top left. I want it to start on top and on left hand side. And now the background size, I'm gonna set it to 100% and 100%, just to ensure that the background always fills all the available horizontal and vertical space. Now, in order to find out the path to my image file, I'll open Media Library, but first I'll go to any background panel because it lets me select the file from Media Library, blah blah blah. Style, background, this is going to be my background SVG file, highlight URL, aka path to my file, copy, close Media Library, close background, get back to Advanced, Custom, and paste it here. Now you can see the problem. Our SVG file doesn't want to scale. Well, it's not that it doesn't want to, but rather browsers don't know how to handle SVG properly. Unless we tell them how to. Luckily, there's something that is called SVG fragment identifier, which must be appended to the end of SVG file path, like this. Watch what I'm doing. After SVG extension, I'm gonna use hash and then SVG view, and then I'm gonna open close single bracket, and then I'm gonna type in preserve aspect ratio, open close another bracket pair, and say none, and look at our background. It's okay now. It's fixed and working just fine. So once again, no need for such a fix when working with any other file type but SVG. So I just picked that SVG for a background intentionally in order to save you some time, maybe. So that's how you won't get stuck if using SVG maybe as a background anytime in the future. And there's also one extra plus to using background image as a quasi border, and that is, it allows you to make rounded corners. That's something I already mentioned a few minutes ago. If you recall, we were not be able to set rounded corners with image border CSS property. You remember? Good news is that our quasi border works a bit better in that sense. So let's do that. Let's add some roundness to section first. Okay, I highlight section, I go to style, border, and let me add 15 pixels border radius. There it is. If I want to add some roundness to my intersection, to the column, I can highlight. I can do that by highlighting column, going to style, border, and let's say add 8 pixels border radius, and that's how it looks like. And now my second card box, I'll highlight section, go to style, border, and enter 15 pixels border radius. And for the intersection, for the column, I highlight the column, style, border, and enter 8 pixels. Update, and there it is. Okay, let's just take a look how it looks like in Firefox first. It looks nice. Let's try to scale it. Resize browser window. It's quite okay, even though a little bit odd at the lowest resolution. Anyhow, let's go to Google Chrome, refresh. There you go. Should be working fine. Yeah. And finally Safari, refresh, and that's it. That's it. We are done with this tutorial. The next one will be about making these nice image borders on thumbnails. You may be seeing something like that on CSS Tricks website, csstricks.com website. And besides these little nifty borders, I'm going to show you how to make a gradient background on button and image background on button as well. So that's what I'm going to talk about in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a thumb up. Subscribe, spread the word, share, comment. If you do that, I'll make more Elementor tips and tricks. Have a nice day!